So all of us, we had three tasks that were given to us, three assignments in particular that were given to us, and we decided that each of us wanted to work on every assignment because ultimately we did want to learn what was happening in the other assignments as well. So we appointed one POC for each task. So there was one for annual report, there was one for Nai Disha, and I was the one for math. So we started off with the annual report in the beginning because we wanted to know a little bit more on the organization also. So for the first 5 days or so, we did the annual report, and at the same time, we were going through the report and making notes on whatever it is that we need to speak at Nai Disha as well. And then within the first week, I went with Kushal sir to a few NGOs. So I did learn a lot of things in the first time itself. So first of all, it is not always true that whatever it is on the Google map or on the the directory, the NGO might or might not be there. It might be functional. It might have gotten shut in the past 2 or 3 years. So that was the first thing. Secondly, when I went to him at Apang Manav Mandal, so that was the first NGO that I visited with Kushal sir, and there we found out about how the NGOs had different branches, and then we had to go to the main branch. We spoke to some of the officials over there, and it required a lot of follow up because not everybody knows everything about the NGO. So somebody who is in charge of taking calls on, say, the directory registration, somebody is in charge of handling the administration work, so somebody else would have the registration number and the registration certificate. So that was one. Secondly, once I got along with sir and I saw whatever what was actually needed, then we also collated our learnings. The three of us collated our learnings and we discussed it with sir. And in the next week, we went with them. All three of us went together for some of the NGOs. So a few things that I learned there were, first of all, people would ask you a lot of questions. So you need to be very thorough with what is happening and what is even happening in the NGO. Because yes, they are registering on the directory, but whatever is happening in Samay Chala, they also need to know that. They ask a lot of questions around it. Secondly, that it is a bit draining to sit in the NGOs for a long time because it happened at one of the NGOs wherein we had to sit for 2 hours before we could actually speak to somebody. But one thing that helped us there was we already knew some people who were with us in the college, so we could take their help and get directly to the person in charge and not go through the entire hierarchy to reach there. So that was about Naidesha. Annual report was something I was very excited about because that is something very related to my MBA. I have been studying about how the annual reports are made and how we present ourselves to the people who we'll partner with, the people who will be going through the NGOs, the reports. So I mainly focused in the annual reports. I was focusing on the key capabilities that the team developed in 2019-20 and 2020-21. So that is where I learned more about how the NGO is working, what is Samay Chala doing to uplift its employees and to enrich their experience as working in the NGO. So that was for annual report. And finally for math kit, as I said, that it requires a lot of patience and perspective from somebody who doesn't have kids and who doesn't know what it's like to teach a child. So for number one was patience. That is the most important thing that I learned there. And secondly, those the soft skills of speaking so well in Hindi, because we usually don't do that anymore. It's more of English when it comes to MBA and the MBA life. So it initially I also struggled with speaking in say pure Shuddh Hindi, and eventually I got the hang of it. So this was mainly about the math kit. Otherwise, the editing part, the lightings and the frames and things that should fit in the frame, what should logically follow what. So these were the few things that I learned in the math kit. Okay, so I'll answer first. My first point would be about the NGOs in general. So what happens is I have been connected to NGOs in the beginning also, but it was for a very brief period of time, and I was not able to really get into how the NGO works. So while I spent time with Kushal sir, I asked him a lot of questions about why he's not working in the corporate world. What is his motivation? Because it requires a lot of motivation from your end to work in an NGO. So what is the one thing that drives him? How does he find people who are who share the same passion that he does for the NGOs and working for their cause? So that was number one. Also, I didn't actually know exactly I couldn't empathize with what was happening on ground, on field. So that was one thing that I learned. Secondly, I learned that during the math kit videos, I learned that I actually never knew what it's like to deal with somebody who is specially able, to deal with people who can't do normal tasks the way we do it. So it actually got in me a very strong sense of empathy, something that I didn't I didn't realize at the time, because I was very secluded from this area. I was never involved in this area of work. I just worked in an NGO, but I couldn't commit to it fully. So in this span of 3 weeks, I could commit to it. I could see on ground what are the realities, and the same I could apply in my math kit also and in other projects as well.